Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Inner Conquest, the world's greatest modern metaphysics channel. I'm your host, Jacob Edens, and today we're going to be discussing the topic of righteous addiction. Okay? So when we think about thinking, what are we doing? We are entertaining, if you want to take a law of attraction lens for this particular video, different vibratory frequencies that are labeled. What is a thought? A thought is a vibration that is labeled, right? So if I think red has a skew of different sensory, experiential types of impressions that you associate with a word, okay? So when you're thinking, you have like a Rolodex and you're pulling up different thoughts, different things to place your awareness on. And that does what's called activate the vibration, because through your awareness, you activate the substance of thought, right? And what happens? Thought turns into things. Well, how do thoughts turn into things? Thoughts that we focus on with our awareness gain momentum in the same way that you charge things up, right? They vibrate faster and faster and faster. And as they vibrate faster and faster and faster, they pull different experiential elements of reality that are in alignment with that vibrational frequency to them, right? So that's why they call it a law of attraction, because through activating thoughts, you're able to magnetize not only more thoughts, but you're able to activate them in such ways to when they get to non-contradictory states, we call them beliefs, which are thoughts that we just keep thinking over and over and over again, right? Now, it's important to understand that the thoughts that we think control elements of our reality, because where our focus flows, our attention goes. And what we pay attention to and what we focus on, we create. And what we think, we become, okay? So it's important to understand that if we are going to think from what you would call a scripturally perfect example, we would want to think in a righteous way. Now, what is thinking in a righteous way? Righteous thinking is accurate thinking. Replace righteous with accurate, okay? So if your goal is financial freedom, say you want a ton of money all the time, right? And you want money coming in all day, every day. If you're activating thoughts all day of there not being enough, then it's not that that thought is bad or you're a bad person for doing it from a moralistic standpoint. It's very simply put, from an accuracy standpoint, an inaccurate thought. Because if your ideal, right, is to have a bunch of money coming in all the time, and then you focus your awareness on thoughts of, oh no, what if this happens? I don't have enough. Through the very virtue of that activated thought, the momentum that will accrue through that activation is in misalignment or malalignment with your goal, which is what they call sinning, which means to miss your mark. It's an archery term, right? So when you want to think correctly, you want to think accurately, okay? So remember, what you think you become, and what you focus on, you create. So your primary desire should always be to think and focus in your favor. Think and focus as if you are the version of you now who has what they want, because it takes mental training to do that because of the way that we've been raised. We were raised to basically be disempowered, right? And you're raised to give external things power outside of you, which is the whole premise of Second Cause by Neville Goddard, right? I can't do this because of this. Well, through virtue of your inner dialogue and your inner machinations, you have cultivated a state that says you cannot do that, which is then reflected onto you. But giving power to the reflection is a misstep, because that reflection was created through the internal state, right? So anytime we try to go outside and make the external thing work, we can make it work like a Frankenstein monster, but it's going to continue to resonate at whatever that internal state is. So understanding the metaphysics of life is important, because it puts you in the driver's seat of being able to cultivate, create, and focus on what you want to focus on, right? So when we think thoughts over and over and over again, we form and build out states of consciousness, okay? So a good example is if you have parents or, loved ones who've never had a good relationship with money or relationship with something else, right? When you're born, you kind of download all of those different aspects. You absorb all of those different states of consciousness. So any state of consciousness that you dwell in dominantly has addictive natures and properties to it, right? We feed constantly on inner chatter and states of consciousness. right? We eat food externally, but even that is a representation of the states of consciousness that we feed on, right? So feeding on the proper states of consciousness is the way to roll, because if you understand that a state of consciousness has an addictive quality to it, meaning that people who are depressed, it's easy for them to be depressed all the time. People who are super wealthy, it's easy for them to be super wealthy all the time. People who are successful, it's easy for them to be super successful, right? Whatever state you habitually inhabit and feed upon, you will begin to essentially addict yourself to that state, which is a good thing, because if you can take your thought processes and understand fourth dimensional thinking in opposition to linear time-based thinking, you can embody any state that you want right now. Okay, that kills second causation, because if you have the ability to think as if you were the person now, which is going to build out a state which then will reflect, then you are now empowered as a creator of your reality, right? But what you have to do is you have to wean yourself off of all of the unwanted states while exclusively or dominantly feeding on wanted states, which looks like every time you have a mental thought, every time you engage in an emotion, you're identifying or disidentifying with it through your awareness to it, right? So if you have a thought that says, money's hard to come by, and you identify with it and you focus on it and you don't deny that thought, then you are giving that permission to what you would call enter the kingdom, or your subconscious mind to then reflect, right? So you want to have your guards up, and then you want to constantly and chronically feed on mental dialogue, mental movies, and emotional states that imply you having what you want, right? And it's an identity shift. It's a shift from haphazardly thinking in response to your external environment to consciously clicking on and deciding and choosing the wanted states that you want because they match your ideals, right? And ideals shouldn't be installed in you from somebody else. You're a unique individual who gets to decide what they want and what is best for your life. You are the authority, and you're only ever beholden unto yourself, right? You're the only one who can judge you. You're the only one who can shame you for anything that you've ever done. So you have to make this shindig work the way that you want it to, right? So once you clarify what you want, even if it's at a macro level, like I want to be super healthy, I want to look great, I want to make a ton of money, I want a ton of freedom, right? You don't have to have all the details ironed out. Just get those macro things in order. Begin to think as if you are those things now, in opposition to all third dimensional external evidence that is contrary to that, right? Because what you're really looking to do is you're looking to loose yourself from the unwanted states and bind into the wanted states. And if you've ever been in a place of negative addiction, like spiraling, that's a compulsory addiction to negative thoughts that don't get you anywhere, right? All negative thoughts really are thoughts that have fear as their root, right? So if you have unconditional love at the highest end of the spectrum, and then you have fear at the antithesis of that spectrum, if you feed on the fear ones, they always lead to dead ends, right? So part of the Inner Conquest 12 mental disciplines is understanding the power of thinking from a loving perspective, right? You always want to build out a state of consciousness through love, because in the same way that they do the water experiment in Japan with the rice and all that stuff, right? The one that they put the loving affirmation into, and then the one they put the fear affirmation into, the loving one actually sustains itself from a life force point and is able to repair and regenerate, and the fear one degrades and degrades itself into nothingness, right? So you want to have the loving aspect, not because we're airy-fairy goody two-shoes, but because of the energetic structuring components that love has to assimilate, build, and create things, right? You want to think from loving states, and you want to think them so chronically that you become addicted to them, because they are not only ingrained, but the thought vibrations that you have harnessed are so activated from a momentum standpoint that they are able to carry themselves out as belief systems, because there's no contrasting energy to them. They just create and multiply and expound, right? Like if you've ever seen somebody who wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and then their day keeps getting worse and worse and worse, you don't want that. You want to loose yourself from that state, and you want to put yourself in this state of everything getting better and better and better and better, because with enough engines on that thought form, through your awareness and your reorientation to it, it will become dominant, and it will be easier for you to inhabit those states and think those thoughts due to the momentum that they have and the basically emotional grid that you've built out, in the same way to where if you wear a pair of shoes all the time, you can put them right on your feet. You're not worried about getting blisters. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to check out the link tree if you'd like to do coaching one-on-one with me. If you do the Spartan 1, all I ask is just watch the video before you sign up for that. We also have the 12 mental disciplines course as well. So you can sign up for that, as well as the coaching, and the email stuff is below that on the link tree. And then email me if you guys have any questions. The most important thing that I have to say today is go conquer, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.